Our guest, Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, author of the new book, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Senator Cruz, great to have you on Newsmax. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. Thanks for having me.
You bet, you bet. Hey, first off, though, I saw you on another network this morning. For a little while there, you seemed very pessimistic about what could happen. You called it a bloodbath, Watergate proportions. What were you telling the fake news what they wanted to hear, or what are you thinking going into the final stretch here?
Well, what I said this morning and what I believe is that the election is incredibly volatile, that the spread between the possible outcomes is enormous. I think we could have a very, very good election. I think we could see the president reelected with a big margin. I think Republicans could take both houses of Congress. On the other hand, I think it could be a terrible election. I think it could be a bloodbath. And there are really two things that are the differentiators between those two outcomes. Number one is the level of hope and optimism people have. If people feel good about the future, if they feel like they're going back to work, like the future is bright, that's how we have a terrific election. If people feel pessimistic and hopeless, that's how we have a terrible election. Number two, and directly related to those, is I think this election comes down entirely to turnout. You know, historically, there have been persuasion elections, there have been turnout elections. I think this is a turnout election. I think the hard left, they are going to show up. They are energized, they're angry, they hate the president. They're going to crawl over broken glass to vote. The unknown question is if everyone else will show up. If the rest of us show up, the rest of America shows up, we'll have a very good election. But if people, for whatever reason, stay home and don't vote, that's how we end up with disaster. And I've never seen in my lifetime an election with such widely disparate outcomes as very real possibilities less than a month out.
As much as the left hates Trump, the right loves Donald Trump. I mean, the loyalty is amazing, and I think love trumps hate. I don't know who said that first.
You're right.
All right, we'll see. Hey, a couple of things, though. If this does not go our way, again, I think it will go our way, but the system is clearly rigged. And I think clear evidence of that. We've had two debates in less than a week or so, and two moderators either would not or could not pin down the candidates, Harris and Biden, on stacking the court, which seems like a pretty straightforward question. Number one, your reaction to the media failure there, and also, if you could, to our viewers, just kind of recap what the danger and why stacking the court is a bad thing.
So on the moderators, I don't understand why Republicans put up with the fact that every single moderator of a general election debate is a Democrat, that the only people who moderate these debates are liberal partisan Democrats. It's completely unfair and one-sided. And by the way, in the primaries, remember 2016, we had a bunch of Republican primary debates. Most of the moderators there were Democrats. And so I've suggested actually as an ongoing reform, two reforms. Number one, for a Republican primary moderator, that the only moderators be people who actually intend to vote in a Republican primary. That we ought to have questions to the candidates from someone who is not hoping that everyone on the stage loses and is not approaching their job as moderator as a chance to try to attack all of them. And then in the general election, what I've suggested is let's stop pretending that these so-called impartial journalists are anything other than left-wing activists, and let's just openly embrace and have a conservative and a liberal moderate. So rather than a Chris Wallace, who's a registered Democrat who did a horrible job moderating the first debate, rather than that, let's have a debate moderated by Mark Levin and Rachel Maddow. And everyone will know Mark's a conservative, Rachel's a liberal. Mark's going to ask the Democrats harder questions. Rachel's going to ask the Republicans harder questions, and just own the bias. That would at least be fair, rather than having what we saw in both of the debates so far, which is stacked questions for one side from moderators that are clearly leaning hard left.
Yeah, the illusion of impartiality, let's give up on it already. And that's actually a very intriguing idea. All right, real quick, you are a Supreme Court expert. You clerked, and I got a picture of you, Senator, with the late Chief Justice Rehnquist. You look like you're about, well, I think you're 25 or 26, fresh out of law school, or at least one clerkship under your belt already. So stacking the court, just tell us why that's a bad thing.
Well, I'm not sure I could shave in that picture. That was about 12, it feels like. Look, packing the court, it was striking. Both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refused to answer that question. I think they both dodged it. Mike Pence, in particular, 4 times he asked Kamala the question. 4 times she dodged it. The reason they dodged it is because their answer is yes. It's unequivocally yes. If they win and get power, they will try to pack the court to increase the number of justices from 9 to 11 or 13. That would destroy the court. It would destroy the independence of the judiciary. It would make it even more political than it is. It's what their radical left-wing base wants, but I think they know that it's a wildly unpopular idea, which is why they're not willing to admit it to the voters before Election Day.
One vote away, how a single Supreme Court seat can change history, by Senator Ted Cruz. I'd bet money that he's going to run for president again someday. Hey, Senator, do me a favor. I'd like you to stick around for the end of the show. I got a special question for you about the movies, and I know you're a big movie buff. Do you mind?
I'd be happy to, and let me encourage folks, go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy your books. The book right now, we released it last week, and it almost immediately shot up to the #1 best-selling book in the entire country on Amazon. And so please go buy it. I think you'll find it interesting, fun, very accessible. You don't have to be a lawyer to read it, but I think you'll understand far more the stakes of this fight over the Supreme Court and really the stakes of the election in 2020 and why they matter so much for the country.
All right, #1 on Amazon. All right, and also it is packing, not stacking the Supreme Court. We're back with Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas. His new book, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. All right, not only is really good at law and legislating and all that stuff, he's also an incredible movie buff. I have that right, correct? And did you once consider a career as an actor?
When I was in high school, I was a frustrated actor, and I did think about dropping out of school and heading to Hollywood. I think I made the right choice, not pursuing it at the end of the day.
So back in 2016, I met you at an event here in New York. The New York primary was coming up. I knew The Princess Bride was your favorite movie, so I asked you what's your second favorite movie, which is, I believe, The Godfather, correct?
Absolutely.
So I give you a lot of credit because I know you had a nasty little exchange with Chris Cuomo, who, since The Godfather is your favorite movie, you refrained from calling him Fredo, which I thought was a class move.
Well, you know, he has a bad habit of yelling at people and trying to beat them up.
Well, yeah, but Fredo, Fredo, as we all know, is the weak brother. And you could have gone there, and you didn't go there. But all right, forget about Chris. Godfather, no kidding.
If I had been in person, I might have grabbed him by the cheeks and said, "You broke my heart, Fredo. I know it was you."
Damn, that's good. Godfather 2, by the way, I believe. Senator Ted Cruz, we appreciate it. One more time, the book is called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History, available wherever books are sold. Thanks a lot, Senator.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.